excitement back, but every time I step into that ring, it's pure excitement. So I could definitely carry, the May 5th, September, and the September dates. Hopefully, if we could get a fight with Dimitri Bivol at the end of the year or the beginning of next year to unify those titles, man, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be 5 titles I could capture in 2 fights. So just capturing those titles is my main motivation.
Well, all right. I just finished watching the David Benavidez, Brian Custer interview that they just had on the Last Stand, Brian Custer's YouTube channel. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about, starting off with the video that I just showed you guys. 2 things specifically that I want to talk about. First off, David Benavidez, the Mexican Monster, is competing on May 2nd, Cinco de Mayo weekend, against Gilberto Ramirez, Zuro Ramirez, who is the WBO, WBA Cruiserweight Champion, 200-pound limit. David Benavidez is the reigning WBC Light Heavyweight Champion with a 175-pound limit, former 2-time 168-pound Super Middleweight Champion, before moving on up. He says he wants to take over the months of May and September. We all know Cinco de Mayo weekend, May. This is going to be an all-out Mexican clash. It's going to be absolutely fantastic to see David Benavidez move up to a weight class where you could come in 25 pounds heavier, from 175 weight limit to a 200-pound weight limit. Completely different. But he says he wants to take on the months of May and September. And I'll tell you what. First of all, we all know May and September, Canelo Alvarez is the type of fighter who likes to fight in September, right? He likes to fight in May, specifically due to Mexican culture. You got Mexican Independence Day. You got Cinco de Mayo, right? I think it's a great plan. But the first thing that I thought of when David Benavidez says he wants to fight in September, I thought, well, we do know Canelo Alvarez is looking to come back in September. Canelo Promotions, along with Turkey El Sheikh, throwing on the card that's being titled Mexico versus the World. We know right after Brandon Figueroa takes off the WBA featherweight title from Nick Ball, he gets summoned by Turkey El Sheikh to compete on the undercard in September. Turkey El Sheikh has already put it out there. He wants him to compete. And I believe represent Mexico. I think, why can't we get David Benavidez on that Canelo undercard going up against Dimitri Bivol? Why can't we? I understand David Benavidez versus Dimitri Bivol, who Dimitri Bivol, if you don't know, is the IBF, WBO, WBA world champion in the light heavyweight division. David Benavidez moving up to the cruiserweight division only because he can't get any of those big fights with Arthur Beterbiev or Dimitri Bivol at 175. So he said, all right, just for this fight, I'm moving up to see if I can conquer something great, become a unified world champion in the cruiserweight division. But right after that, I'm moving back down to 175. I want the Dimitri Bivol fight next. Dimitri Bivol has fought in Saudi Arabia a lot. He's been part of Turkey El Sheikh card. I think, why can't we see, if Turkey was pushing for this, if he really wanted Dimitri Bivol to fight David Benavidez instead of Dimitri Bivol fighting Arthur Beterbiev in the trilogy fight, which we all know that they want, Arthur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol, why can't we see Dimitri Bivol go up against David Benavidez in Mexico versus the world? Dimitri Bivol representing the world and David Benavidez representing Mexico. That would honestly be an absolutely ridiculous card and a ridiculous plan if they were able to cook something up like that. Now, I don't see that happening, and I don't see it being possible due to the fact, Dimitri Bivol says he's gonna. Well, I do at the same time, because Bivol did say he's coming back in spring, right? April or May. I believe it's gonna be to defend his IBF title in the mandated fight against Michael in that one. After that, he can take a little break and still end up coming back in September. It's very possible. But we don't know if that's what Dimitri Bivol wants next. I'm pretty sure he wants Arthur Beterbiev. I think that's what they're really going to want. At the end of 2026, we're going to see the trilogy between Arthur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol, leaving out David Benavidez. I just thought to myself, David Benavidez wants to fight in September. He wants these fighters. He wants Dimitri Bivol, says he's not staying at the cruiserweight division, but moving back down specifically for those fights. When I watch this interview with David Benavidez, you realize, and every single time he talks, this man ducks nobody and wants to smoke with everybody. Literally is trying to win 2 world titles in a goddamn weight class where you could be 25 pounds heavier. You got Zuro Ramirez who walks around at 210, 215 pounds. And then you got a champion, unified champion, Dimitri Bivol, with 3 world titles in the 175-pound division that he's been calling out. I don't think there's no denying the mindset, the hunger when it comes to David Benavidez and ducking fighters. That's just a non-existent word when it comes to this man. Now, another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to this interview.
I don't have to shed any muscle off, but you know, I do have to put on more muscle. You know, I have to work harder. We're going up weight class. I have to train different. You know, I'm not fighting at 175 no more. I'm fighting 200 at cruiserweight, and yeah, the training camp is gonna be different and strength and conditioning wise. But also, I don't want people to get it twisted. You know, I'm not gonna stay up here at cruiserweight. You know,
He brings up his strength and conditioning, and you know how he's moving up to the 200 pounds. And I think to myself, what kind of David Benavidez are we going to get on fight night? Because he looks ridiculously fast. I was thinking with him moving from the light heavyweight division to the cruiserweight division, he might get a bit slower, right? He is technically good everywhere, but his feet work is a little, it's iffy. I think he has great footwork, especially for these heavier divisions, right? Compared to a lot of these fighters in this division. Now, I don't think he has Dimitri Bivol feet work. I don't know if he has Arthur Beterbiev feet work, but he has great, somewhat, not the best, but decent footwork. And I think moving up to this division, is it possible he's going to slow down a little bit? With the videos that he's been posting with Ryan Garcia, his speed still looks to be there. His speed still looks to be there. He looks fast as hell. And I wonder with this weight that he's going to be gaining, I don't think he's going to get big. I don't think he's going to swell up due to the fact that he still wants to come back down to the light heavyweight division. I think he wants to take some of his speed with him that he carries from the 168-pound division to the 175 to the cruiserweight division, be able to utilize that against, you know, not the fastest fighter in Zuro Ramirez. It's very interesting to see and think, how is David Benavidez going to come in? Faster? Is he going to hit harder? He may not be faster, but is he going to hit harder? Is he feeling more good, more comfortable, being able to eat what he wants and not have to make a weight limit? Is this going to benefit him? I think it's a very, very high possibility, but it's going to be interesting to see how his stamina and endurance is. Because, of course, when you move up weights and, you know, you haven't been fighting, you know, with these bigger dudes for as long as you have, these guys start to lay their body on you. They start to land punches that you're probably not used to getting hit with, because some of the other guys in these lighter weight divisions don't hit as hard. Your punch resistance with stamina. If these guys go to the body because you got more weight on you, your hands are up, your hands have more weight on you, will the lactic acid start to build up? Will him getting heavier and fighting in a heavier weight class, taking heavier shots from a heavier fighter, build up his lactic acid due to him, and this fight being his first cruiserweight fight against a world champion? Will the lactic acid build up and come into play in this fight? It is so interesting to think about, you know, the difference of weights from light heavyweight to cruiserweight, which I'm absolutely interested to see. And now, one more thing that I want to talk about when it comes to David Benavidez that has to mix in with Keyshawn Davis.
Guess what's the lesson to some of these cats who are facing some issues? How'd you turn it around where all of a sudden now people look at you and say, this is the model, this is the guy? What would be the advice you would tell these cats?
yeah, well, just, you know, fight for your family, fight for your children, fight for your wife, and, you know, find some spirituality in your life, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. You know, Lord Jesus Christ has helped me through this whole process. You know, I've been through a lot of stuff.
That's exactly what just happened with Keyshawn Davis. David Benavidez talks about, you know, his pastimes and overcoming them. Talking about finding God. And if you don't have God, you know, sometimes other things in life tend to get a hold of you when you don't got a hold of nothing or any type of belief, right? Now, that's whether or not you want to believe it or not. But Keyshawn Davis is going through the same exact thing. Keyshawn Davis, being a guy who's been absolutely ridiculed, been going through a lot of drama this last 2 years, has finally found God, just got baptized yesterday, and his mentality and everything seems like it's beginning to change. David Benavidez went from being what some people would call a bad guy to a respected, well-mannered, beloved monster of a fighter, and outside and inside the ring. Keyshawn Davis, I know there's a lot of people that ain't there with him when it comes to that. David Benavidez is well more established, has proved and talked, shown nothing but respect a lot of the times. Keyshawn Davis is a little bit different. He's a little bit more thrash. Of course, somebody like that, there's going to be a lot of people that come at him and try to, you know, I think give him a lot more of bad critiques than giving somebody like David Benavidez. I think Keyshawn Davis still has to prove himself, but someday I do see Keyshawn Davis being in that position. I see him being in the same exact position as David Benavidez, you know, making mistakes in his past, but overcoming them. Because why? Because he connected with spirituality. I honestly do that. It honestly saves a lot of people's lives, bro. I know a lot of people that have their life changed due to the spirituality of the world, man. Let me know what you guys think, though. It was a great interview. David Benavidez, Brian Custer. I always love the Last Stands interviews all the time. Let me know what you guys think. This is the MMA Boxing Addicts channel reporting to you, and I'm